Okay, it's 1 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting of Trent Lakes Council to order. Can we have our clerk, Jesse Clark, please call the roll?
Thank you. Mayor Lamstead, are you present?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Armstrong?
Present.
Councillor Franzen?
Present.
Councillor Braybrook?
Present.
Councillor Cadigan?
Present.
For staff, we have Donna Taggart, CIO Treasurer.
Present.
Steve Brockbank, Director of Emergency Services.
Present.
Evan Grieger, Director of Public Works.
Present.
Barb Waldron, Director of Building and Planning, CBO.
Present.
Adele Arbor, Planner.
Present.
Ann Ruth, Deputy Clerk.
Present.
Bianca Dragicevic, Legislative Coordinator, Executive Assistant to the CIO.
Present.
Sarah Delamarter, Junior Planner.
Present.
Rachel Stark, Economic Development and Marketing Coordinator.
Present.
And Jesse Clark, Director of Corporate Services Clerk, is present.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to the land acknowledgement moment of reflection. We respectfully acknowledge that Trent Lakes and Peterborough County are located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa First Nations, collectively known as Williams Treaty First Nations, which include Alderville, Beausoleil, Curve Lake, Georgina Island, Hiawatha, Rama, and Scugog Islands First Nation. Trent Lakes respectfully acknowledges that the Williams Treaty First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility and to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. We will now take a moment to reflect on these principles and our duties and responsibilities as members of council. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now I will remind all members of council, if you have a disclosure of pecuniary interest, please do it now or anytime on the agenda prior to discussing anything that you have an interest in. I'm seeing no hands. We move on to item number 3, which is the approval of the agenda as amended. Yes, or Jesse Clark would like to speak.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Lamstead. I'm just requesting that the agenda be amended to move the closed meeting up to the next item on the agenda before item 4, adoption of the minutes, and that council also go into closed section under section 239(2)(e) and F for litigation or potential litigation and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege regarding a forced road, and request that council approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? I see Councillor Cadigan for a mover, and a seconder is Deputy Mayor Armstrong. All in favor? That motion is carried. Okay, now I need a motion to go into closed session. I see Councillor Cadigan and Deputy Mayor Armstrong. All in favor? That motion is carried. We are in closed. Okay, we are out of our closed session, so I would need a motion to rise from closed session. I see Councillor Braybrook and Councillor Franzen for a seconder. All in favor? Okay, we are back in our regular meeting. We can move on to item number 4, which is the adoption of the minutes of previous council meeting on November 21st and the regular council meeting of November 22nd. And the statutory public meeting on November 22nd. If anyone wants to speak of that, or we can do it all in one motion. I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a mover. I see Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. All in favor? All in favor? That motion is carried. Please try to make sure that your hands are in front of the eye on your laptop, because sometimes we can't see your hand. Okay, that motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to committees and boards. And we have Rachel Stark for the economic. Are you going to speak? Is she going to speak to that? Okay, Rachel, would you like to speak to item 5.1?
Yes, thank you, and through you, Mayor Lambshead. This report was created following the discussion from the most recent Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting on November 14th. As part of the community revitalization piece of EDAC's work plan for 2022, the committee is seeking funding to replace the main gateway sign in Buckhorn as it is beyond repair. Staff recommends council direct staff to first reaffirm the cost of replacing the sign by obtaining various quotes, and afterwards seek government funding to go toward the gateway sign replacement. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions about that? See Councillor Braybrook?
Just a quick question. A resident has asked, as far as the, I believe it was $10,000. Was the quote, and just if you could expand on that. I know you received 2 or 3 quotes. If you're able to explain sort of the breakdown of the $10,000.
We did receive thank you. We did receive a quote in 2020 through Carver Creek Signs, who had made the previous sign. And I believe that was for $10,000 as well. So that is where that quote came from. That is the only quote I've seen through EDAC. So just to make sure that the pricing would be right for 2023 is why we would like to gather some new quotes for the new year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Need a motion for that? Anyone prepared to make a motion in regards to this? I see Councillor Brandon.
Make a motion in support.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? See Deputy Mayor Armstrong. All in favor? That motion is carried. We move on to section 5.2 of our agenda, which is Rachel again. Go ahead, Rachel, start.
Thank you, Mayor Lambshead. This report was created following the discussion, again, from the most recent Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting on November 14th. With the goal to secure long-term economic direction for Trent Lakes, one of the action items on EDAC's work plan for 2022 is to recommend staff to create a draft policy regarding acquisition, maintenance, and disposal of property. The Recreation and Facilities Department have already prepared a recreation maintenance policy in 2021, and the Corporate Services Department is already in the process of reviewing the current disposal of real property policy. Therefore, we recommend a slight amendment to the wording to direct staff to prepare a draft policy regarding acquisition and disposition of property for the municipality. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any comments or questions? I'm seeing none. Would anyone be prepared to make a motion? See Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
I will make that motion to receive the report and to direct staff to prepare a draft policy regarding acquisition and disposition of property for the municipality.
Do I have a seconder? I see Councillor Cadigan. All in favor? That motion is carried. I'm having a difficult time seeing your hand, Councillor Cadigan, when you put it up. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. We can move on to section 5.3, which is liaison reports on county boards and committees. Does anyone have anything to report? I'm seeing Councillor or Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you. I will respond to either.
My apologies.
No, don't be. Just to report that Galway Hall had their AGM November 28th. Unfortunately, the chair was not able to be there due to illness. However, the AGM proceeded and the same members of the board will continue into the next term. And amongst themselves, per their bylaws, they will choose a chair and vice chair, secretary and treasurer.
Excellent. Good to hear. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We have no statutory public meeting. We have no business arising out of a statutory public meeting. We have no presentations. We have a delegation from Michael Goddard. If you please unmute yourself and share your video if you can.
I'm trying to, no, they're asking me to unmute it, it says.
You are unmuted. We can hear you. Michael, are you there? Michael, are you there? Technology is wonderful when it works.
Michael is still showing as muted, and we have sent him an unmute request.
Are you there, Mike? Cool. We were so close.
If council wishes, they could call a recess in order for staff to try and get Mr. Goddard connected, or we could move to the next item on the agenda and come back to this delegation afterwards.
What is the preference of council?
Move on.
Okay, we will move on to item 9.2. If we can get David White on the line.
Mr. Mayor, what is the time allotment for David White?
10 minutes. Then questions are on top.
Yeah.
Okay, David, are you there?
Hello?
Hello, David.
It's Mike Goddard calling. I've been trying to get in on the computer, but I couldn't.
Okay, Michael, thank you.
We could proceed with Michael. I don't see David on the line, so perhaps someone
Michael.
could try and contact David.
We can proceed with your delegation then. You have 10 minutes.
Okay, so exactly what do you want me to talk about, how this is going about? I'm kind of coming to you to appeal it was a building bylaw number B2017-004, section 13.4. And it outlines the criteria for refunding. If we go through that and look at it, we just overnight have paid for the building permit, which was January 1st. We found out after the first one inspection to the house that we couldn't do it because the foundation, there was changes that had to be done. So we had to have a demolition permit put in. We did another permit and they charged us again $3,028, the same price paid for the first one. And they refunded me $908 from that. And then I had to pay it again for my full permit. I do no changes. I just have to, my building drawings were the same drawings. They just went from file 1 to file 16. And I have to pay the same amount, as I've heard, if I get paid, if I went just illegally and just built, the fine I would get is double the cost of a permit, and that's what I got charged, and I'm going to appeal this. Just to make a reference to, if you totally pull the permit, never gonna build with something, I agree to this, but if you turn around because of issues, and you're still building the same structure, the same building, the same town, the same builders from the area, you're penalized. So I just appealing that's what's changed to be maybe administration fee. Yeah, I'd agree to that, but someone that's gonna totally went through with the same job, I don't understand why I paid twice for the same permit. Make sense?
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Does anyone have any questions? I'm seeing no questions. Would anyone from staff would like to speak to this?
Yes, through you, Mayor Lamshead, I will speak to this. This is Barb Waldron, Chief Building Official. Both of these files were previous to me getting here, but I have pulled out the information. I am very happy to prepare a report for council for a future meeting so that council can have all the facts about both permits. The first permit was for a second floor addition and a renovation. The second floor was for an entire new dwelling. So it's not exactly the same situation.
Exactly.
Make sure your comments go through the chair, please.
Okay.
And the bylaw is very specific in section 13.4, and it's set up so that when monies are given back to the applicant for permits, they're based on a certain percentage that go back, and it's based on the amount of work that goes into the application. So if the application is reviewed, if the permit has been issued, there's different stages. So I'm very happy to prepare a report for council so that you can have all of this information before you to make a decision.
Okay, thank you very much, Barbara.
Can I add to that?
You can please go ahead now. Yes, Michael.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to, I understand the reviewing of the permit. Actually, the building, take the permit building from the both two bosses, exactly the same. It said renovation and second floor addition, and that's exactly what was done other than new foundation. But what I want to talk about is the time that someone spent to look at this file, as Barbara mentioned, and made one site visit after that. And then we went ahead and changed. We had no choice but to change. So the same amount of work that was involved, they could have skipped all that and just showed up again to see what started because they've already reviewed all that. So the argument still stands that I feel that a $250 maybe administration fee for pulling a permit if you're putting it back in, but to totally pull it away, yeah. But come back at it and do it again, it just to me makes no sense to me. But anyhow, I just wanted to review that. Maybe have two sections of part A and B to the that bylaw.
Okay, Michael.
Anyhow, thanks
for
your. Right?
Yeah. Thank you for your comments. I think we probably would like to have a staff report. I'm assuming that would be reasonable. Yes, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you. Through Mayor Lamshead, I would propose a motion that we receive the report and refer this to staff for preparation of a report to bring back to a future meeting.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? We see Councillor Cadigan. All in favor of that motion? That motion has carried. Thank you very much for coming to us, Michael. Thank you, Bart. Okay, now we'll move on to section 9.2. If we can find David White on the line, please.
We've promoted someone named Jenny, who we believe may be David White, but that person is still muted.
Okay, Jenny, if you are representing David White, please unmute yourself.
Hello?
Hello, is this David?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, David. Is that you?
Okay, sorry about the mix-up. It must be a mix-up between Jenny's my assistant and she sent me the link. So I am sometimes rather challenged with the technology, but thank you.
Well, thank you very much. You can proceed with your delegation. You have 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to council. I represent Dewdney Mountain. It came to our attention that there was a resolution before council for this meeting dealing with the Ledge Road as the proposed haul road for the proposed Dewdney Mountain Quarry. And I thought, this has been a very long process, and we have a new council, and just a little bit of background I thought would be helpful for council. The Dewdney lands, as I'm sure you're aware, are on Schedule C of your official plan, which is the mineral aggregate resource area. In fact, all of the lands on either side of Ledge Road are within this. It's not a designation, it's an overlay on your official plan indicating the location of high value aggregate resources as identified by MNRF. And there are a number of policies that apply to these lands when they're designated or when they're identified as a mineral aggregate resource area. Policies are both in your official plan and the provincial policy statement. And the thrust is to protect this resource for extraction and making it available as a resource. A number of new homes have been built on Ledge Road over the last number of years since this area was identified as a aggregate resource area. And I can only assume that the township followed its process in the official plan and assured itself that when they issued building permits for these houses, that these houses would not interfere with the future development of this aggregate resource area. The other important factor is that the official plan amendment for Dewdney Mountain is approved. These lands are designated on your official plan for aggregate extraction and in particular quarry for consolidated limestone. Also, MNRF have signed off on the quarry application and has no outstanding concerns. And that leaves us with just the zoning bylaw. Previous council back in, I think it was 2015, did approve a zoning bylaw for Dewdney Mountain, but it was appealed. And after a lengthy appeal process that involved both the Ontario Municipal Board and the courts back in those days, the bylaw was not approved, but it was not approved on the sole grounds that Dewdney Mountain had not established noise mitigation for the haul road. And the decision of what was the Ontario Municipal Board then, now the Ontario Land Tribunal, is very clear that all other aspects of the quarry were approved, and the only outstanding matter was the noise levels and whether any noise abatement was required on the haul road. At that time, there was a large number of trucks proposed, and there were noise barriers being proposed in front of the houses, and that wasn't deemed acceptable. The decision goes on to say that there's no prejudice to Dewdney Mountain to come back with another application that addresses the noise issue on Ledge Road. Dewdney Mountain has done that. They've done a new traffic study and they've done a new noise study, and they've been able to reduce the projected noise by limiting the number of trucks and severely limiting the number of trucks, and in that way reducing the noise down to the level that was accepted by the Ontario Municipal Board. This noise study has been peer reviewed by the township peer reviewers and approved. And in our view, there's really no further outstanding matter, and we'll accept that during this process, we became aware that the portion of Ledge Road, the south portion of Ledge Road, is in fact a trespasser deviation road. And you all know that it veers off to the west and goes around a rather deep gully. And that this trespass road has never been assumed by the municipality. And this was a surprise to, I think, all of us. And in fact, it creates hardship for everyone. It creates hardship for Dewdney because it would like to upgrade the road. It creates hardship for the township because you're using and repairing and maintaining a road that you really don't have a right to do. It's a trespass road. And it's a real problem for the public because their lots are now illegal. They do not have frontage on a public road. And so none of those residential lots are legal lots. They should never have been granted severances. They should never have been granted building permits because the mandatory requirement is that they be on a legal open municipal road. Dewdney's been working with the township to resolve the issue. We're preparing a very comprehensive survey now, which will be for the benefit of the township. And we believe the township is moving forward to assume the travel portion of the road, which will solve this problem for everybody, and including the residents who live along the road, and they will obtain legal access to their properties. So we're hoping this trespass road can be resolved in the near future. We expect to have a survey presented to the township and Mr. Ewart, hopefully sometime in January. It's a very busy period for the surveyors and we just can't get it any faster. We understand the township have retained Mr. Brian Zeman. He is well known as an expert on agri-resource matters, and we understand that he will be presenting a report to the municipality sometime in the new year. We would urge the township not to make any decision until it receives the report from Mr. Zeman. It would, in our view, be very short-sighted for the council to have retained a very qualified expert and then move forward with the decision prior to receiving that expert's report. So our request, Mr. Mayor, is that council sit tight, not do anything until they have an opportunity to review Mr. Zeman's report. Those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Does council have any questions of Mr. White? I'm seeing no hands. Anyone prepared to make a motion to receive this delegation? I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Motion to receive.
I see Councillor Braybrook. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we can move on to staff reports, which we have no public works one. We have no recreation facilities, no fire and rescue. We'll move on to building and planning. Sarah Delamarter, our junior planner. Would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. There's a public meeting held for file number 22-19 in Trusca on September 6, 2022. The report was not forwarded to the agent in time for the meeting, so it is requested that the item be deferred until the agent has had an opportunity to review the report and address the recommendations they do not agree with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone have any questions about this? No questions. Anyone prepared to make a motion about this? I'm seeing no hands.
Well,
okay. I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor Lamstead. If we could scroll to the end of this report from Municipal Planning Services, I believe there's a recommendation for a motion there.
Yes, there is. Right at the bottom.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a recommendation for motion. However, the agent did contact us stating that they did not receive the report in time to make availability for today's meeting, and thus they don't have anything prepared or can't attend this meeting to justify in their favor.
Okay, we are talking about zoning bylaw amendment 2219, correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes.
Okay, so there's a request to defer from the applicant.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, by the agent, the applicant's agent. Yes.
All right, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Just a quick question. And is our staff supportive of that recommendation to defer from the agent?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, seeing as it was a mistake that the report was not sent over to the agent in time for the meeting, staff are in support of the agent's request for deferral.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Yeah. In light of that, I will proceed to make a motion to defer this file to a future meeting.
Okay, do I have a seconder? See Councillor Franzen. All in favor? The motion to defer carries. Thank you. Okay, item 10.4.2, Sarah Delamarter, our junior planner, once again. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. On today's agenda, there is a municipal appraisal form for consent files B-142-22 and B-143-22 submitted by agent Carrie Stevenson on behalf of the property owner Thomas Bertram's Hall. The subject plan is located at 382 Lakehurst Circle Road. The application conforms to the official plan policies as the proposed use is residential on all 3 lots, and the current land use designation is rural. Both separate parcels will require a zoning bylaw amendment, as the rural residential zone is a more appropriate zone for both separate lands. The submission of a reference plan or R plan will be a requirement of a complete application for the zoning bylaw amendment submission. Staff have reviewed the application and recommend that council supports the consent applications subject to the following conditions. 1, that $1,000 cash in lieu of parkland fee be paid to the municipality for each new separate lot. 2, a rezoning of the separate parcels to the satisfaction of the municipality. And 3, that if the reference plan confirms that any portion of the traveled road is located on the separate lot, the lands occupied by the traveled road, including additional land measuring 10 meters from the center line of the traveled road, be transferred to the municipality as a road dedication. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. Any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion in support with the 3 recommendations.
Okay, Councillor Franzen has a motion to support. Do I have a seconder? I see Councillor Cadigan. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much, Sarah. Okay, we can move on to finance. We have none. Administration, we have none. We have corporate services, committee of adjustment honorarium review. Anne Ruth, Deputy Clerk, would you please speak to this file?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lambshead. At the November 22nd council meeting, staff brought forward a report regarding Committee of Adjustment bylaw review, and the matter of the monthly honorarium for committee members was referred back to staff for further review and consultation with existing members of the committee. The report before you outlines information regarding Committee of Adjustment honorariums for other lower tier municipalities in the County of Peterborough and provides data on mileage rates in 2015 versus 2022 and average claims for council representatives. In consideration of extending the honorarium to include both public appointees and council appointees, the Finance Department has recommended that council members continue to claim mileage via their monthly expense claims. Any honorarium to council members would be paid via payroll with council remuneration and will be subject to applicable statutory deductions. Staff consulted with both council representatives on the committee, as well as with 2 public appointees who sat on the committee during the last term and have been reappointed. Their comments are included in the report. Staff continue to recommend that the monthly honorarium amount for public appointees be increased to $100 for a total of $1,200 per year, and that council members appointed to the committee may continue to claim expenses in accordance with the council conferences and expense claims policy. Should council opt to alter the monthly honorarium amount and/or extend the honorarium to include members of council, there is a bylaw included on today's agenda to establish procedures for the Committee of Adjustment Appeals Committee that will require amendment prior to passing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions? I see Councillor Franzen.
I'm willing to make a motion at this time. And the motion is to pay non-council members of the Committee of Adjustments $110 monthly, $1,320 a year. And this should be reviewed every 4 years. So we don't get into the same position where there hasn't been any increase for 7 years.
The recommendation was 100 and you're going to recommend 110.
I'm recommending 110.
And part of the recommendation is also that non-members stay the same. We just check. Get mileage.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion? I see a Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
I will second it just so we can table it and have
Okay,
discussion.
okay.
So I would just like to understand the rationale behind the 110 versus the
Okay.
100 from
Okay, thank you.
Councillor
Okay,
Franzen.
we have a motion and we have a seconder. Do we have discussion? Would you like to explain the rationale, Councillor
Yeah,
Trent?
yeah, my rationale is that there hasn't been a raise for 7 years. $75 was rather low even at that time. When we do inspections, I know that we only had 2 inspections this month, but it took 3 hours to do the 2 inspections. Even though you're driving Bass Lake Road 20 kilometers in and 20 kilometers out, it takes you an hour because you can only drive 15, 20 kilometers an hour on most of that road. And we have a lot of inspections that are properties that are very difficult to access on far routes, etc. So I think it would only be fair compensation for $110.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Franzen. Anyone else have any questions or comments? I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamstead, I think it would be appropriate for us to also hear from staff on that proposal.
Anne, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you. Through you, the honorarium was intended to offset the costs of mileage, and the data provided is specific to reimbursement for mileage. Thus, the comparison of mileage rates from 2015 to 2022. So mileage reimbursement would be in alignment with the same mileage reimbursement to council and or staff. In regard to time spent, first time for site inspections, this doesn't speak to reimbursement for time spent at sites, and perhaps Adele Arbor Planner may have some additional comments in regard to that.
Okay, thank you very much. I look at those trips out to those as an education for that 3 hours. Adele, would you have any comments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I know that given the territory of the municipality of Trent Lake, sometimes the various applications are at different ends of the municipality. And as Anne identified in a report, that rate was for mileage and not for time spent. So I don't know if council would like to give consideration to the additional time, but we were trying to have a fair playing field in terms of mileage of council as well as mileage of the public that sit on the Committee of Adjustment.
Thank you very much, Adele. Okay. Any other comments? I will call for a vote. All in favor of the motion? That motion has carried. Okay, thank you. Now we will move on to item 10.7.2, which is Jesse Clark, Director of Corporate Services, clerk, for summer meeting consideration.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamshead. At the November 22nd, 2022 meeting of council, council referred the 2023 council meeting calendar to staff for further considerations on additional meetings in the summer months. Staff reviewed previous procedure bylaws and calendars, meeting length and attendance, schedules for other lower tiers, and staff availability, all of which is summarized in the report. Staff recommend adopting the 2023 meeting calendar as presented, with one meeting in the months of both July and August.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments or questions from council? I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamson. I appreciate the work that's been done behind this. I will support it. However, in my own experience, it's always easier to schedule a meeting and then cancel it if you don't need it, especially in the summer months. So my preference would have been to schedule a second meeting in August and then determine in the June or July timeframe whether or not it's actually required. However, that's just a personal view, and I'll go with whatever council deems appropriate.
We can certainly call a special meeting if there's anything that comes up that's of immediate importance. I think the schedule is fine for me. Anyone else?
I have very similar comments to Councillor Armstrong. I would have preferred the summertime meeting, whether another summertime meeting, whether it's July or August, but I would go along with the will of council.
Okay. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? Support or you see Councillor Brake?
I'll make a motion that council receive the report and that council adopts a 2023 council meeting calendar as presented.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cadigan, all in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to correspondence items. Does anyone have anything on there that they would like to pull from that? Or can we adopt them all with one motion? There's many comments about Bill 23. We know we have had our many comments ourselves, so I think we're well versed on Bill 23 and its issues. Anyone prepared to make a motion? I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Through you, Mayor Lamford, a motion to receive all of the correspondence under item number 1.
Okay, do I have a seconder? I see Councillor Brayrock. All in favor? The motion is carried. Okay, we have move on to section number 12, which is correspondence for action. And 12.1, which is Norfolk County, Prince Edward County Township, Hoosling. Bill 23 once again. Anyone prepared to make a motion?
Motion to receive.
Councillor Franzen, motion to receive. I have a seconder. Councillor Cadigan. All in favor? That motion is carried. Okay, we can move on to 12.2, which is the Township of Warwick. Anyone prepared to make a motion? I see Councillor Franzen.
Motion to receive.
Seconder, do I have a seconder? I see Councillor Braybrook for a seconder. All in favor? That motion is carried. I think that's all we have on it. Oh, no. We have building permit renewal fees. Nicholas P. Stockley. Yeah, Stockley. Anyone prepared to make a motion? I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you. I propose that we receive this and refer it to staff.
We have a seconder to receive that and refer it to staff. Councillor Braybrook. All in favor? That motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much. Refer to staff. Thank you. Okay, we can move on to the bylaws on the agenda. I think we have a bylaw memorandum.
Yes, we do. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Lambshead, there are 2 bylaws on today's agenda that didn't have a corresponding staff report or public meeting. The first is B 2022-114, which is a zoning bylaw amendment for file 2223. A public meeting was held on August 9th and subsequent report brought at November 22nd council meeting. Council supported the application and directed staff to forward the site plan agreement to the applicant for review and execution, and then to bring forward the zoning bylaw amendment. And B 2022-116 is a bylaw to authorize the execution of a merger agreement related to consent file B 7921.
Okay, thank you very much. We can move on to the government proceedings of meetings and the Committee of Adjustment Appeals Committee. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lambshead, I'm going to try to do this on the spot, so bear with me. I would recommend that council read this bylaw a first and second time, and further that that section 9.1 of Schedule A be amended to read. Sorry, Ann, can you pull up? Thank you. That Schedule 9.1 or Section 9.1 of Schedule A be amended to read: all members who are not members of council, public appointees, shall receive a monthly honorarium in the amount of $110 for a total of $1,320 per year, to be reviewed every 4 years. The honorarium shall be intended to offset the cost of mileage for members to complete site visits related to minor variance applications. And further, that the bylaw be 2022-106 be read a third time and passed the 6th day of December 2022.
Okay, do I have anyone prepared to make a motion to that effect? See Councillor Franzen.
I'd like to make a motion to support that.
Okay, motion to support. Do I have a seconder? See Councillor Cadigan. All in favor? That motion is carried. Okay, we can move on to the zoning bylaw amendment B 22-114. Prepared to make a motion. I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Braybrook, all in favor? That motion to approve is carried. The authorization of an execution of a merger agreement wheel, which is B 22-116. Anyone prepared to make a motion? See Councillor Braybrook.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cadigan. All in favor? That motion is carried. Okay. And then we can move on to section 14, which is business arising out of a previous meeting. And we have John Ewart, the municipal solicitor. Can you please unmute yourself and there we go. Thank you for joining us, John.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The correspondence I'm proposing to address, Your Worship, is correspondence forwarded to the municipality back in September, on September 27, and it effectively deals with the haul route agreement, which is part and parcel of the Dooney Mountain Farms Limited application for the use of Quarry Road, Ledge Road as a haul route. What I've identified in the correspondence, Your Worship, is comments pertaining to the agreement itself by way of perhaps required amendments, but more importantly, with respect to the location of the haul route, as it's to be situated on Ledge Road and Quarry Road, it's the area that's the forest road that's situated on Ledge Road that is of concern, and is identified in the correspondence. That portion of Ledge Road where it leaves the road allowance, Your Worship, becomes essentially a forest road. And laid out in the correspondence, the background to both the forest road and the trespass road. And again, the concerns expressed, and the concern is primarily with the road. And based on calculations taken by staff, these are of course informal measurements taken by municipal staff. It's our understanding that the road varies anywhere between, this is the travel portion of Forest Road, Your Worship, varies anywhere between 24 to 25 feet, which is approximately 7 meters, give or take. And the concern, of course, is the actual location of that forest road, where it is, and whether the width of that forest road being, at least the travel portion, being at approximately 7 meters, is it safe to allow for that portion to be used as a haul route. So that is essentially what the basis of my report is in that letter of September 27, concerns raised. Now, Your Worship, at this time, it's my understanding the proponent is actually seeking to obtain a survey which would show with definitive measurements the actual width of that forest road as it relates to that portion of Ledge Road. There's no doubt that the road allowance that was originally laid out on Ledge Road is 66 feet, but the concern, as I indicated, is where it veers off the road allowance, the 66-foot road allowance becomes a forest road and then ties back into the road allowance. What's the width of that road? What is the dimensions in terms of how wide, how long a portion? And of course, is it safe from a traffic safety perspective to be used for a haul route? And I'm hoping that the proponent, who we met with on October 24th, I believe, is in the process of obtaining that survey. And once that survey is prepared, then council will have a far better understanding as to the actual width of the forest road. And right now, what we're seeing, as I indicated, based on staff measurements, is a traveled portion of approximately anywhere to from 24 to 25 feet in various locations. So until that survey is actually arrived or received, Your Worship, it'll hopefully provide confirmation as to what information is missing, as I've identified in my correspondence of September the 27th.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if we can ask a question. Does anyone on council have any questions of Mr. Ewert? I'm seeing no hands. I see staff question. I see Barbara Walder. You can try it. Sometimes it works.
Can you hear me, John?
I can, Barbara, yes, thank you.
So when I was listening to David, I was, the first part of his comments about the permits being illegal because they didn't comply with the official plan, I was kind of smiling to myself because he obviously doesn't understand what's applicable law. But the second part of his conversation, when he started going down the road of illegal permits because the lots were created on an unassumed road or whatever he called it, gave me cause for concern. Does that give you any concern?
I'm sorry, through Your Worship, was this, Dave, was this Mr. White's delegation to council?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Yeah, I did not see that, so I didn't join that part.
I thought you heard that. He basically said that the permits, the houses weren't issued with legal permits because, no, sorry. He said he hoped that the building department did their job when they issued the permit.
Was Mr. White referring to permits fronting on the forced road? Or that portion of Ledge Road being portion of the forced road?
Yeah, no, I think we can discuss this at a later date, this idea.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Your Worship, I can't really add to it because I did not have the benefit of hearing from Mr. White.
Yeah, you can be apprised of Mr. White's presentation and then we can have that discussion at a later date.
Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Barb. Okay. Any other questions from council or staff or? Okay. So anyone prepared to move?
If we need it, I guess a motion to receive the
Okay.
report from Mr. Ewert.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to receive. We have a seconder of Councillor Braybrook. All in favor? I think that motion is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Ewert.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Council.
Okay. We can move on to item number 15 of our agenda, which is Councillor Francis, a notice of motion.
Wait until it comes on screen.
Okay.
I'm used to a hard copy. We used to get hard copy on our agenda from notice of motion, but that's fine. This is dealing with the Doodley Mountain Quarry, the haul route. Whereas the proposed haul route for Doodley Mountain Quarry has health and safety concerns, whereas the proposed haul route for Doodley Mountain Quarry has a huge impact on residential homes on the proposed haul route, and whereas a portion of the proposed haul route for Doodley Mountain Quarry is on Forest Road, therefore, the Council and Municipality of Trent Lakes is opposed to the use of Quarry Road and Ledge Road as a haul route for Doodley Mountain Quarry.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I have a seconder of that motion? Oh, I have a seconder, Councillor Cadigan. Are we gonna have some discussion? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor Lamstead. I'm certainly in support of the intention of this motion, and I have actually prepared an alternate motion, which is a little bit more extensive, but has the same sort of direction. So I'm wondering if you might withdraw your motion and I could.
Yeah, I will withdraw my motion.
Yeah, I think our Adele Arbor has a comment maybe prior to us making a motion.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remind council that the proposed haul route is part of the zoning bylaw amendment process, and the application is still under review and is in our municipal hands and waiting for a report from our consultant. There is no staff report to accompany this motion. Undoubtedly, this puts the municipality at risk and potentially may exhibit some bad faith. As there is a planning process which hasn't been given due process, I ask council to give this motion careful consideration.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, Adele. Okay, Councillor Armstrong, are you prepared still to?
I am, and I've submitted it to the clerk in advance, so if perhaps she could put it up on the screen.
May just take one moment while we.
I must admit, I'm a little concerned about this motion because we are not waiting for a survey that's being done. I do understand the reasoning.
I think, let me read the motion and perhaps the rationale is in the motion.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor
So
Armstrong.
whereas there is an active zoning bylaw amendment application from Junie Mountain Farms Limited, and whereas a development agreement, including the haul routes, with the municipality must be entered into prior to the zoning bylaw amendment being enacted. And whereas council was only recently provided with a legal review and comment on the draft haul route agreement prepared by the applicant. Whereas a portion of the proposed haul route for the Junie Mountain Quarry is on a forced road. And whereas the role of council is to, quote, represent the public and to consider the well-being and interests of the municipality, and that's from the Municipal Act. Whereas allowing a haul route for 14 trucks an hour to be on a municipal roadway that goes through a residential neighborhood would be precedent setting in this municipality. And whereas the volume of industrial truck traffic is incompatible with residential use of the road. And whereas the proposed haul route will negatively impact the health and safety of residents, as we heard at the August 2022 public meeting. Whereas the proposed haul route will have a significant impact on the residential homes on the proposed haul route. And whereas this council does not wish for either the applicant or the taxpayers to continue spending money on further investigation, design, or development of this proposed haul route. Therefore, council declares that it does not support the proposed haul route utilizing any portion of quarry and/or ledge roads and recommends that the applicant propose an alternative haul route. And the only comment that I would like to add is that we are certainly not opposing the quarry operation. This is addressing only the haul route and its current proposed location on quarry and ledge roads.
Okay, do I have a seconder so I can have discussion? Okay, I see Deputy or Councillor Franzen for a seconder. And do you have a
I'd
comment?
like to make a comment as well. The forest roads certainly has changed things because it really doesn't make it viable at all. But I'm opposed to that haul route, whether the survey comes back and shows that they have 66 feet or not. I don't believe it's a viable haul route. And that's why I would support the motion, and I hope we go forward with this motion today.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Franzen. Councillor Prayberg, you have a comment?
I do. I have a comment through you, Mayor. Although being new to council, I've had an opportunity to apprise myself of available information as it relates to this file. I note that the April 18th, 2018 LPAT decision was in favor of the appellants. The tribunal stated that the ruling would not preclude the proponent from submitting a new application for a zoning amendment to the municipality. I also note that the proponent and his counsel did not appeal the LPAT's ruling, instead opting to resubmit a zoning amendment application to the municipality. It is my position that LPAT's ruling narratives are still of value and assisted me in part with my analysis and opinions. Both the proponent and the municipality have been involved in a process to work towards the potential of a new zoning amendment being issued to the proponent. The main focus of the process was establishing a feasible noise mitigation solution as it relates to the operation of aggregate trucks traveling on both quarry and ledge roads in a residential area. There were considerations given to building berms along with armor stone walls along the haul route to mitigate noise, which included analysis of noise decibel levels at certain key receptor areas. The proponent had also submitted a proposed plan of reconstruction of quarry and ledge roads to accommodate both the noise mitigation measures and the safe travel of aggregate trucks to and from the quarry. In 2020, it appears the proponent pivoted from pursuing a physical barrier as a mitigation to noise, instead opting to adopt a no mitigation plan where a reduction in speed in conjunction with the reduction of the quantity of aggregate trucks per hour would be the new proposed approach to noise mitigation. One of my concerns is with the meaning of no mitigation, as well as the fact that the plan has evolved from actual physical mitigation measures to a proposed agreement or undertaking to reducing the speed limit, as well as reducing the number of aggregate trucks per hour. I know there is concern with the residents that if these two measures were to be implemented, it would be difficult to actively monitor and hold to account the proponent should these two terms of agreement be violated. The responsibility of monitoring should not be the burden of the residents of Quarry and Ledge Road. In April 18, 2018, LPAT decision adjudicator Mr. Swinton stated, quote, "The reality is that the use permitted by the zoning amendment is premature in the absence of a concrete, feasible noise mitigation solution for the proposed haul route." End quote. Although the proponent's haul route plan proposal of a reduction of the speed limit along with a reduction in the number of aggregate trucks per hour has been peer reviewed and deemed to be acceptable, it is an advisory and informational document, which in my opinion does not rise to the standard of concrete or feasible due to, in part, if I can borrow from a real estate term, that the condition is a condition subsequent, so to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments? See Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you. To you, Mayor Lamshead. I am no lawyer, but I would like to cite two terms in the LPAT ruling. One was 66 that says, therefore, to the extent that the proponent is able to develop a feasible noise mitigation plan that the municipality will agree to implement and which will satisfy the determined recommendations as to noise attenuation without creating consequential adverse impacts, et cetera, et cetera. Clause 58 says, the evidence tendered by the proponent in this proceeding falls well below the standard necessary to satisfy that the required noise mitigation works are feasible and capable of implementation so as to achieve the required noise attenuation objectives, and also not creating ancillary undue impacts, either as such impacts may relate to the functioning of the road itself or the use and enjoyment of the properties abutting thereon.
Okay, thank you very much for the comments. Anyone else have a question or comment? Anyone from staff care to speak on this file? I'm seeing none. I'm going to call for the vote.
I request a recorded vote.
We have a request for a recorded vote.
And we're ready for the vote?
And we are ready for the vote.
Okay, Councillor Franzen, are you in favor?
Yes.
Mayor Lamshead?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councillor Braybrook?
Yes.
Councillor Cadigan?
Yes.
That vote is carried.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will move on now to item number 16 on our agenda, which is liaison reports and external boards and committees. Does anyone have any reports? I'm seeing no hands. Oh, we will move on to business rising. Oh no, yes, we do. We have to adopt. Yeah, business rising out of our closed meeting. We have adoption of the minutes from our previous closed meeting. I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a mover, and I see Councillor Franzen for a seconder. All in favor? That motion has carried. Thank you very much. And we can, item 19, which is the adoption of the confirming bylaw. I see anyone prepared to make a motion? Seeing Councillor Franzen for a mover and Councillor Braybrook for a seconder. All in favor? That motion is carried. Now we can move on to item 20 of our agenda, which is the adjournment. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn? I see Councillor Braybrook and Deputy Mayor Armstrong, all in favor. We are adjourned. That
Thank you.
motion is carried.